Hi, I'm John Green, and this is another episode of Crash Course. Today we will be discussing the Civil War. Alright, so in order to understand the Civil War, we first must talk about how it started. It all began in 1860 when President Lincoln was elected. The South viewed him as someone who wanted to get rid of slavery, so this angered them. And for South Carolina especially, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Shortly after he was elected into office, South Carolina seceded, followed by several more Confederate states. And shortly after that, South Carolina attacked Fort Sumter, thus starting the Civil War. So, Mr. Jackson, can you explain how you managed to make a name for yourself in this war?
Well, yes. So at the Battle of Bull Run, everyone thought that the war would last 4 to 5 weeks. But then, with the Confederate troops under my command, I was able to defeat the Union without retreating. And that's why I got the name Stonewall Jackson.
The Union were surprised to find out that they had lost. Most people believed that this would be a short war lasting only a couple of months. But however, with Stonewall Jackson's victory at the Battle of Bull Run, it showed that the Confederates were a force to be reckoned with. And next, to understand the Battle of Antietam a little bit better, we will be talking to the ghost of General Lee. So, General Lee, can you explain what your goals were for the Battle of Antietam?
Yeah, it was a pretty bloody day, but I was trying to get into Maryland, but they intercepted my plans, so that went pretty bad, and we had to go back and retreat into Virginia.
That was horrible.
I'm not proud of it.
After the Battle of Antietam, President Lincoln used the opportunity of a victory in order to release the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation declared that all slaves living in the Confederate States were now free. Now, because these states had seceded, it didn't actually do all that much. It only freed about 1% of all the slaves in the South. However, it was a big part in the war effort about what the Union was fighting for.
Yeah.
In 1863, a state legislator from Maryland named John Merryman was arrested for attempting to prevent the Union troops from moving to Baltimore from Washington. He was being held at Fort McHenry by Union forces when his attorney sought a writ of habeas corpus in order to get his case examined by a federal court. After hearing about this, President Lincoln decided to suspend Merryman's right of habeas corpus, and the Union forces refused to hand Merryman over to the authorities. Then Roger Taney, the Supreme Court Chief Justice, ruled that Lincoln could not suspend habeas corpus, a decision which Lincoln decided to defy Taney during a July 4th speech where he insisted that he needed to suspend the rules in order to beat this Confederacy. Located in the deep south of Georgia was the prison known as Andersville. Inside, poor conditions, the cold, and starvation led to many casualties by Union soldiers. The death toll rose significantly, and more men died from disease than actual wounds in the Civil War. By spring of 1863, the Union had almost completed their goal of securing the Mississippi River. All that was left was the heavily fortified city of Vicksburg. On May 18, 1863, Union forces led by General Grant bombarded the city with artillery for 7 weeks before the Southern forces surrendered on July 4, 1863. This was considered a great victory for the Union because now they had complete access to the Mississippi River. In the summer of 1863, General Robert E. Lee decided he wanted to try to take Washington, D.C. again. So he moves his forces up into Pennsylvania, where they try to capture the small town of Gettysburg. Defending this small town is a Union force of 104,000 men. After 3 days of gruesome fighting, the Union Army managed to push back the Confederates, and the Confederates were forced to retreat into Virginia. Many consider this the turning point in the war. After the Battle of Gettysburg, Lincoln gave an address to commemorate the fallen soldiers who had died there. We managed to find an old VHS tape of an interview with him after his address. Please enjoy.
So, President Lincoln, how was your Gettysburg address?
I believe that my speech at Gettysburg did not properly honor the men as I originally intended to, and while the crowd did applaud me after I finished, I do not believe I said the right thing.
In 1864, General Sherman participated in the last major offensive of the Civil War. Sherman led a large force of Union soldiers down through Tennessee and into Georgia, where he then burned Atlanta and marched all the way over to Savannah and took it over. After Sherman's march to the sea, the Confederacy was split in half. This, along with Union forces advancing into the Confederate capital of Richmond, caused Lee to have no choice but to surrender at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9, 1865.
Abraham Lincoln and McClellan. What a wonderful election. I wish they were still alive. Wait a minute, it's McClellan. Let's go talk to him. Hello, McClellan.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm dead.
Well, I see that for sure. So, McClellan, how was your election against Abraham Lincoln back in 1864?
Well, Abraham Lincoln won, and I was very disappointed, although this was no big surprise because the Republican Party controlled the Union states. And I got almost no electoral votes, and I got 45% of the popular vote. This loss upsets me because Lincoln and the Republican Party victory means that the war may continue until the South surrenders completely, causing a greater loss of life and death.
Hi guys, thanks for watching Crash Course, and I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new today.